This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening and thank you for being with us. 2 people are in hospital, 1 in critical condition after one of them made contact with a power line. The incident happened in Winnipeg's Rossmere neighbourhood this morning. A workplace investigation is now underway. The CBC's Gavin Axelrod has more.
The ground is charred and black where a fire was, and one resident says a crew had been doing work at an apartment block across the street.
They started on this building last Friday, and they came back today to finish. There were some up top on that far side.
Jerry DeRosier lives at the apartment complex where the crew had been working. He didn't see the incident happen, but when he took his dogs out for a walk Thursday morning, he saw one of the workers getting medical attention.
And I knew that they were covering the air conditioners. There was a ladder on the ground. He was on the ground. One of the workers was beside him.
Video posted to social media shows a bit of what happened. You can see a burst of light. Then, what looks like a ladder falling to the ground. Another video shows a fire across the street at the base of a different power line. In a statement to CBC News, Manitoba Hydro says a member of the public made contact with electrical equipment, but it wasn't a Manitoba Hydro worker. The province says Workplace Safety and Health is investigating, and DeRosier says his thoughts are with those who were hurt.
It's awful because you hear about accidents, but when you see someone on the ground so close, it's kind of sad. These guys they're fairly young workers.
Meanwhile, the Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service says one person was taken to hospital in critical condition and the other in stable condition. Gavin Axelrod, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A nursing home in Winkler has been forced to shut down dozens of beds after the elevator stopped working. For months, they have been pleading with the province to repair it so they can get people back into those beds to no avail. That is until our I-team here at CBC News got involved. Caroline Bargut brings us the story.
This is Salem Home, the only personal care home in the city of Winkler. It has 145 beds and they're always full. At any given time, there are about 50 people on the wait list to get in. 2 years ago, the elevator started breaking down, causing concern that one day it will just stop working altogether, leaving vulnerable residents trapped on the second floor. Karen Oliveira is the CEO of Salem Home.
The risk of it failing is big, so we didn't want to risk having the residents, all 35 on the second floor, and all of a sudden it stops working. And then they are stuck, literally stuck up there.
The elevator repairs are estimated to cost $200,000, which Shared Health said it would pay for. But when? The province approved funding for a new elevator 2 years ago. Then in March, Salem Home put out a tender to find a company to do the work. But 7 months later, and the government still hasn't handed over the money.
But this is now the whole empty unit.
Oliveira says in September, staff here decided they couldn't wait any longer and moved 26 of the 35 patients down to the first floor. They couldn't move them all because 9 residents are on the behavior ward and can't be around other seniors. She said without a functioning elevator, it would be very difficult to move people in an emergency. But now, the care home has 26 empty beds and no way to fill them.
People can't be admitted to the hospital, so they are sitting in the ER. Because the beds are full with people waiting to go somewhere else. And so decreasing the ER wait time to me is almost like directly linked to PCH.
There are currently 54 people on the wait list for Salem Home. About 20 of them are taking up space in hospital beds until they can get a bed here. The average wait time is 15 months. Health Minister Uzoma Asagwara told CBC News they were concerned about the delays in communication between Salem Home and the government.
I want to hear directly from folks across the healthcare system in our communities to know how we can support them. And so this was one of those situations where when we were made aware of what was going on, we worked very hard and very quickly to get it addressed.
Days after CBC News contacted the government, Oliveira was sent an email from a Manitoba health policy analyst confirming Shared Health would reimburse the care home for the project and that work on the elevator would begin in January. Caroline Bargut, CBC News, Winkler.
Spills into Winnipeg's waterways could become less common thanks to new green infrastructure. The city is in the midst of replacing its aging combined sewer network, which funnels stormwater and household waste through the same pipes. During heavy rain and snowmelt, the system sends water into the city's rivers. To help with that, the city plans to use soil cells and other green infrastructure to trap and filter water before it enters the system. Brian Mays is the former chair of the Water and Waste Committee.
So rain gardens, these sorts of retention ideas, so you're not just building more pipes, you're trying to do some projects that incorporate vegetation or basically are more environmentally friendly.
Work to reduce sewer overflows is expected to take decades and cost billions of dollars. The city has committed to spending 10% of combined sewer funds on green infrastructure. A pilot project saw the city using porous construction material in back lanes, but issues around maintenance and uncertainty about its effectiveness led city staff to recommend going in a different direction. Soil cells were installed along Broadway earlier this summer, and more work is expected to be done along Leela Avenue as part of combined sewer separation work. Mays says the work has been a long time coming.
We've been required since 2019 by the province to actually do something on this, and it's millions of dollars we should be spending, and I think we're slow to get going, but it's good that we are finally getting going.
The city's work on separating combined sewers could take as long as 2095. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The jury trial for 2 men accused of helping smuggle people across the border, including a family of 4 who froze to death, is set to start next month in Minnesota. A trial briefing filed this week includes details of the case expected to come up at that trial. Alana Cole reports.
It was January 19th, 2022, that a family of 4 from India was found frozen in a Manitoba field. Jagdish Patel, his wife Vaishali, their 11-year-old daughter Vahangi, and their 3-year-old son Dharmik were trying to walk across the Canada-U.S. border in frigid temperatures. A jury trial for 2 men indicted on several counts related to human trafficking in the case is set for November 18th in a Minnesota courthouse. A trial brief filed Monday in the U.S. maps out the evidence attorneys plan to introduce in court. The document says the 2 accused, Harsh Kumar Patel and Steve Shand, communicated about the risks of the cold weather when allegedly orchestrating crossings of other people hoping to make it to the U.S. The document includes a message from the night before the Patel family's fatal attempt. The document says Shand forwarded the other accused a screenshot of a blizzard warning he received saying, "Make sure everyone is dressed for the blizzard conditions, please." It says he also sent videos of the blizzard conditions. Court documents allege that between December 2021 and January 19, 2022, dozens of people were smuggled across the Canada-U.S. border in a large human smuggling operation. The documents say Patel and Shand were involved in cases of people crossing from Manitoba to Minnesota. In the documents, it's alleged Patel worked with people in Canada on things like location and dates, then hired Shand to pick up the migrants on the U.S. side of the border. The 2 have pleaded not guilty. The trial is expected to last 5 days. RCMP say the investigation into what happened on this side of the border is ongoing and no arrests have been made. Alana Cole, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Well, the night is here. Halloween, of course. Maybe you've already had some trick-or-treaters come by your place. Not a bad night for some trick-or-treating tonight. Let's get a first check on our weather with Ethan Williams.
Well, thanks, Riley. Well, last day of October, Halloween. A lot of us pretty excited to get out trick-or-treating, and we've got some very nice weather across the province for it today, specifically in southern Manitoba. Again, getting back into those kind of mid-single-digit temperatures. And for the trick-or-treaters tonight, well, a real treat of a forecast, I think, because in Winnipeg, if you're staying out a little later tonight as you're wrapping up around 9 o'clock, it's still going to be above the freezing mark and a nice light wind as well. The moon possibly poking out behind those clouds that we've had all day long today. Now, those clouds sticking around into tomorrow morning to start November as well, but temperatures, again, staying on the warm side. Will be at the freezing mark by 8 a.m. By the noon hour, we'll be looking at mostly cloudy conditions still at 4 degrees, but then come the afternoon, I think that's when we're going to get a bit of some clearing skies, and we're looking at temperatures up near 7 degrees, very similar to what we saw today. I'll have your full forecast, Riley, coming up.
Thanks, Ethan. Well, millions of people around the world are now celebrating Diwali, one of the most important events in the Hindu calendar. To mark the Festival of Lights, people light lamps and candles to mark the triumph of light over darkness and good over evil. A huge crowd gathered in northern India last night to light millions of lamps, setting a world record for the largest display of lamps ever. Leading up to the holiday, people clean their homes, buy new clothes, and exchange gifts with family and friends. A new report shows despite some improvements, Manitoba still has one of the largest surgery backlogs in Canada. That story and more local news coming up. Stay with us. A new report says Manitoba is doing more surgeries now than before the pandemic, but a doctor says the province isn't clearing its backlog of surgeries fast enough. For more, we're joined by the CBC's Ian Fraze in the newsroom. So, Ian, the report says Manitoba is lagging behind other provinces. Where are we at?
That surgery backlog as of the spring at 40,000 cases. That number is 40% of the surgeries done in the province annually. That percentage the second worst of any province in the country. So that's the bad news. The good news is that surgery volumes have increased marginally. It's 1% better in the last fiscal year versus the year before the pandemic. This helps to chip away at that backlog. But Dr. Randy Guzman with Doctors Manitoba says the province has to move faster.
Manitoba, although we are recovering, it has been a bit slower, and we still have some work to do. And so volumes are one issue, wait lists are another, and patients are obviously impacted with this.
He says that 1% increase is definitely not good enough, especially when you consider that Manitoba's population is growing at a much faster rate.
So Dr. Guzman said something during that news conference that we haven't heard before. There was a proposal to open a limb preservation clinic at St. Boniface Hospital. What did we learn?
Yeah, Riley, this is something we haven't heard before publicly. This clinic at St. Boniface would have helped to save people's limbs. It likely would have been similar to what already exists at the Health Sciences Centre, a program helping upwards of 3,000 patients annually, many with diabetes. Dr. Guzman said a proposal for this clinic was sent to the surgical task force established by the former PC government, but it never moved ahead. Then the NDP was elected and the task force disbanded. Now that proposal is somewhere in limbo. Dr. Guzman says this clinic is still needed today.
It's an issue we're still advocating for. It will help reduce emergency times in my world. And improve wait times, because then you're actually doing some preventative work.
The Winnipeg Regional Health Authority says it's now reviewing the proposal. Riley.
Thanks, Ian. CBC's Ian Fraser in the newsroom. Manitoba's Progressive Conservatives held a meet and greet last night with the two candidates vying to lead the party. But this was no cakewalk for the contestants, who found themselves pushed to clarify their positions on divisive issues such as transgender rights and the way the former PC government handled the pandemic. Bartley Kivas reports.
Churchill business owner Wally Dowdrich and Fort White MLA Abby Khan made their first pitch to PC members gathered in a ballroom at the Delta Hotel. Khan told the crowd he's best positioned to be leader because he has a seat in the Manitoba legislature and can hit the ground running.
I'm ready on day one to take on the NDP, to take on Wab Canoe, and that is going to be important for us to win 2027.
Wally Dowdrich made his leadership pitch based on his business acumen. He owns Lazy Bear Lodge and Adventures in Churchill.
We bring people from all over the world, and we came out of COVID roaring like a lion. And we actually increased our sales after COVID by 50%.
Dowdrich and Khan also fielded some questions from the audience. Nobody served up softballs. Khan was asked about the day he was absent from the legislature when it approved a bill to create a Transgender Visibility Day.
Where would you have voted on that?
Khan didn't answer directly, but after he got off stage, he said he supports the federal Transgender Visibility Day.
As a minority myself, I know what it's like to be ostracized, to be picked on, to be harassed, to be bullied. I might be a big guy, but I got it.
Dowdrich was asked how he would prevent government overreach. He was queried by a woman who had this to say about the PC response to the pandemic.
Oh, you have to take this poison in your body. You have to do this. You're not allowed to go there. You need to wear a mask.
Dowdrich said the former PC government mishandled some things, but he declined to specify what they were.
Some of the rhetoric just could have been not so heated. And then I just would say that our leader at that time probably was listening too much to the wrong people.
Khan and Dowdrich have 6 more months to make an impression on PC members. The party selects its next leader on April 26th. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Newly elected trustees to an embattled Western Manitoba school board say they hope their victory will lead to more voices being heard. 4 people were elected to the Mountain View School Division Board in a by-election on Wednesday. That board operates in the Dauphin area. The vote came after 3 long-serving trustees resigned this past summer following the ousting of the division's superintendent and controversy over a presentation where a trustee said residential schools began as a good thing. 3 of the new trustees identify as Indigenous: Scott Linksleg, Conrad Nabas, and Jerry Thompson. Linksleg says it's time for change, while Thompson says she's going to work to empower Indigenous students. Well, hard to believe that we are already at the final day of October here in Manitoba. And at least here in the south, no snow on the ground yet here in the Winnipeg area. By the way, at this time last year, we had about 5 centimeters on the ground here in Winnipeg for Halloween. So, yep, could be worse for Halloween, for trick-or-treating, but still a cool evening out there. Let's get a check on our weather now with Ethan Williams.
Well, Riley, we've had some cloud cover hanging around southern Manitoba today, all part of a system that's kind of moving off to our south. We've been seeing that through the day in Saskatchewan as well, so it's not just for us in Manitoba that has to deal with that. But do you remember those Halloweens, maybe when you were a kid, having to trudge through the snow in your boots or wear a parka underneath your costume? Well, you're not going to have to do that this Halloween because, yes, we have the cloud, but not really a whole lot of moisture associated with this system. Just kind of a few sprinkles popping up around the Brandon area and along the Trans-Canada corridor. I think overnight that cloud's still going to hang around. We do have this area of high pressure which is going to be moving through, clearing out portions of the north overnight. But the clouds hang around until about kind of 3 or 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon in southern Manitoba anyway. Then they thin out and we get some clearing skies as we start to head into Friday. A little bit of snow skirting its way through far northern sections and along the Hudson Bay coast for our Friday, but it's not going to be all that much. Again, models yesterday were showing very similar amounts, only a centimeter or 2 along that far northern part of the province. And you go further south along the coastline, and I really don't think we're looking for all that much snow moving in. Now, the one thing that we will just have to keep an eye on over the next couple of days is a little bit of some breezes here and there. But again, I don't think we're looking for anything picking up all that much with kind of this more quiet weather picture over these next couple of days. Tomorrow morning, a few breezes in the range of maybe 30 kilometers an hour or so into southern Manitoba. Then things start picking up a little bit as we head into tomorrow evening and into the first part of Saturday. 40 gusting 50 in parts of southern Manitoba and even through northern sections of the Inner Lake. That's where we could see that pick up a little bit before that starts to die down as we head into the weekend. Now, in terms of the jet stream picture, I'll step out of the way here so you can get a full look at it. And again, we're really not seeing a whole big shift in our weather pattern until we get into the latter part of the weekend. Sunday, I think we have a little bit of some unsettled weather coming our way with that trough developing in the jet stream there. But overall, temperatures kind of staying into the single digits for the most part. We are watching this other ridge developing out west, which may actually bring us a warm up as we head into next week. But I'll have a look at your full provincial forecast for what's happening tonight and tomorrow coming up in a little bit, Riley.
Thanks so much. Another gorgeous fall shot from our city skyline. As we head to break, we have more news ahead for you. When we come back, you're watching CBC Winnipeg News. So as we all know, singer-songwriter Taylor Swift is a bit of a big deal. So it's no surprise that her upcoming stop in Toronto is going to have a huge impact on that city. Thomas Dagla has more on the preparations.
Arriving on trains and planes, up to 500,000 visitors are set to invade Toronto for Canada's biggest concert event in years.
Oh my gosh, it's gonna be crazy. I'm gonna try to avoid Toronto at all costs that day. 'Cause baby, now we got bad blood.
Taylor Swift's Eras Tour, a global spectacle turning the city upside down for 6 shows in November.
One, this is a lot of visitors at 500,000. 2, they're each projected to spend a lot of money.
City officials now laying out how they're preparing for all those incoming Swifties. Transit staff will run extra subway trains and streetcars, while Toronto's also postponing some downtown road work to help ease that notorious traffic.
City Council even voted to temporarily rename this route downtown that many Swifties will take to the concert venue. So the stadium, best known as the home of the Blue Jays, will see its address changed for the month of November to One Taylor Swift Way.
Can you think of anyone else in the world the city would do so much for other than Taylor Swift?
First thing I would say is that we don't book major acts in this city, but we do want to be a city that attracts them.
With Swift forced to cancel shows in Vienna this summer over an ISIS-linked plot to kill thousands, Toronto police say they're watching for trouble.
We are continuously monitoring any potential threats. There are no threats at this time.
The highest grossing music tour of all time, Swift's concerts inject big money everywhere they go, with Toronto expecting a boost of nearly $300 million.
It's good for the city. It brings in tourists, right? And so that's revenue.
A historic visit from the world's biggest star. Call it Toronto, Taylor's version. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, Toronto.
CBC News has learned that 2 corporate landlords in Canada have stopped the use of a software program which helps set rent prices at their properties. It's called YieldStar, which U.S. authorities say is used to fix prices, alleging YieldStar's algorithms help landlords effectively collude to jack up rents. Those allegations haven't been tested in court. Anya Zolojowski has the details.
A corporate landlord in Canada says it has stopped using a controversial software that helps landlords set rent prices. In the course of a CBC News investigation, GWL Realty Advisors, a division of Canada Life, told us it is no longer using what's known as YieldStar. In the U.S., the parent company of YieldStar, RealPage, is facing government allegations of anti-competitive behavior.
Americans should not have to pay more in rent simply because a company has found a new way to scheme with landlords to break the law.
The Department of Justice claims that the software helps landlords to artificially inflate rents by improperly sharing information with one another. In a statement, RealPage says YieldStar is purposely built to be legally compliant and that it will vigorously defend itself.
Every single landlord who has been using it should be held accountable.
Cynthia Black rents her apartment from GWL Realty Advisors, which CBC News has confirmed has used the software.
How dare my landlord be using this software that's under investigation for price fixing in the States?
After multiple email requests to GWL Realty Advisors asking whether or not it used YieldStar, the company sent a statement. After an internal review, GWLRA has decided to terminate the use of YieldStar. The decision comes after more than 100 tenants have asked Canada's Competition Bureau to investigate the use of YieldStar in Canada. Among them, tenants living in another building linked to YieldStar. CBC obtained an affidavit submitted by the building's property manager that names YieldStar. It says, in order to calculate the estimated market rents for a given apartment, we use software that is commonly used by many large corporate landlords in Canada and the United States. That program is called YieldStar. But the building's landlord, Dream Unlimited, told CBC News it has never subscribed to YieldStar or taken its recommendations when it comes to rental prices. It also instructed its property manager to discontinue its use of YieldStar. The Competition Bureau recently confirmed it had received those complaints. It's not yet known if it will investigate. Anya Zolojowski, CBC News, Toronto.
An Indigenous woman in Nova Scotia is afraid she's going to lose custody of her 3 children because Ottawa is cutting off her essential funding. Mary Isaac was approved for 24-hour home assistance after an accident a few years ago. But as Olivia Stefanovich reports, the federal government is cutting off that support.
You're 2 hours away. This is the barrier separating Mary Isaac from her 3 children's bedrooms.
I feel at a loss.
Isaac has cerebral palsy and used a wheelchair for most of her life. She would crawl up and down these stairs to put her kids to sleep until she was hit by a truck.
My mobility has changed because of this unforeseen accident. And I'm just, I want to do everything to ensure that my children's needs are met.
Isaac is a single mom of 3 children with disabilities. Because she's Mi'kmaq, she was able to access 24-hour support from the federal government to help care for her kids. But her funding ends today.
This whole process is like absolutely re-traumatizing.
Isaac says Ottawa doesn't want to fund her home supports indefinitely and is telling her to look elsewhere for help, leaving Isaac with a haunting reality.
The federal government now says, well, we're not going to pay for these in-home and transportation supports while Mary recovers, from her car accident. And the result of that may be that the kids end up getting taken into care.
Once a child in care herself, Isaac is appealing and asking the federal court to intervene so history doesn't repeat itself.
My thoughts definitely go to her and to her family.
The federal NDP's Indigenous Affairs critic says Isaac's case raises serious concerns.
Through her courage, she's helping to show that this Liberal government is not meeting its mandate and that we need to keep pushing for them.
CBC News tracked down the Indigenous Services Minister to get answers, but she had little to say.
Because I don't know her specific case, I'd like a little bit of time to understand.
Isaac is on an accessible housing wait list and has turned to the Nova Scotia government for help. So far, nothing has come through, and the federal government isn't offering replacement services either. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
And we do have an update to this story. A short time ago, the family learned that Indigenous Services Canada is going to provide 3 more weeks of support for Mary Isaac and her children, pending an appeal decision on November 21st. Now let's turn our attention to the U.S. election now, where Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are passing each other on the campaign trail again today, both making stops in the battleground states of Arizona, Nevada, and New Mexico. But you can bet both candidates will be back in Pennsylvania as often as possible before next Tuesday. It's a swing state with 19 electoral college votes up for grabs, and it could turn out to be the kingmaker or queenmaker on November the 5th. Richard Madden has more on what's happening there.
Now, election officials here in Pittsburgh say the early voting is going smoothly, the mail-in ballots are being returned securely, and there's no evidence of voter fraud despite the outlandish allegations by the former president. Now, we've all heard Pennsylvania is a must-win state, but here, Pittsburgh and Allegheny County is one of those key counties to watch. This is basically a blue island in a sea of red. It's where near Butler, where former President Trump was shot. So it is understandable why former President Trump is going to hold one of his final rallies here in Pittsburgh on Monday, the eve before Election Day. Now today, on the other end of the state, Vice President Kamala Harris's running mate, Governor Tim Walz, made his closing pitch to blue-collar voters there, pushing the economy and protecting women's rights. Take a listen.
I have to say, this feeling of women right now in this, every age and every party, here's what's going to happen on Tuesday. They are going to send a loud and clear message to Donald Trump on November 5th. They're going to send that message whether he likes it or not.
Now, another issue Democrats are pushing is what that comedian said at the Trump rally just last week, where he compared the island of Puerto Rico to garbage. I spoke to one activist here who says this could motivate some undecided Puerto Rican voters. Watch.
It wasn't funny. It wasn't funny at all. And I think it was done strategically because we're at a time where the demonization and dehumanization of people is what is trying to win an election at this point. And we can't continue to allow people to talk about us in the way that they have. It's not going to change. But what
you don't think this is going to move votes away from Republicans?
I don't. I really don't. What I think it will do, however, is motivate Puerto Ricans that were not going to vote, because this was very offensive.
Now, the Harris campaign already running attack ads against Trump for his surrogate's comments at that rally. Speaking of Harris, she will make one of her final closing arguments in Philadelphia the eve before election night. So it shows that this is a key state, and the keys to the White House depends on Pennsylvania. Richard Madden, CBC News, Pittsburgh.
And of course, make sure to join CBC News for election coverage on Tuesday. We will have a crew in Fargo following developments there. Plus, Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault will have full America Votes coverage wherever you find CBC News, beginning at 7 p.m. Central. Rescue crews are continuing the search for survivors of flash flooding in southeastern Spain. At least 95 people have died and many more are trapped in the rubble or missing. Hundreds of soldiers have been sent to the province of Valencia, which was hit the hardest. Some areas are blocked by mud, debris, and mounds of cars. Tens of thousands of people are still without power and drinking water. Still ahead, some fisheries officers who refused to work for 2.5 months are back on the job after new protections were put in place. The officers' union says members were threatened and even shot at. We'll have the story when we come back. In Atlantic Canada, dozens of federal fisheries officers are back on the job after new protections for them were put in place. They've been refusing to work for the past 2.5 months, fearing for their safety because of violence related to the lobster fishery. But fishers say illegal fishing is still rampant. Kayla Hounsell has more.
This is a busy wharf, and these are the most lucrative lobster fishing grounds in Canada at a time when the commercial fishing season is closed.
I'm a treaty defender, and I don't believe that I need to use any of the federal government's tags to fish. I have an inherent right.
Jolene Marr is a member of the Sebeganegati First Nation. Even when the season is closed, she does have a right to fish for food, social, and ceremonial reasons. But the government says it's illegal to sell, trade, or barter that catch.
I might go trade Buddy down the road for scallops, trade another guy for some wood for the winter. Then do I sell it? Yes, I do.
Going anywhere, in 2020, there were violent clashes between Indigenous fishers and non-Indigenous commercial fishers. A lobster pound burned to the ground.
There's been no enforcement. What's going on here now in the summer is a full-scale commercial lobster fishery out of season.
Indigenous fishers aren't the only ones fishing outside the season, and fisheries officers did seize more than 100,000 pounds of lobster from this facility earlier this month. They say it's gotten dangerous.
We have had instances of officers being shot at. They have also received intel of gang activity.
Don't fall! This video shows fisheries officers clashing with fishers on the water. 35 officers refused to patrol for 2.5 months, citing safety concerns. They're back now, but only after a labor investigator, in a decision obtained by CBC News, agreed, saying the activity could reasonably be expected to present a serious threat to their life or health. The Department of Fisheries and Oceans says it has taken measures to correct this. The fisheries minister did not respond to a request for an interview.
She's never been in southwestern Nova Scotia.
Have you asked her for a meeting?
Yes.
This captain says there's room in the fishery for everyone, but says it has to happen within the commercial season to protect the stock.
We'll see when the season opens and the non-natives join us, because I'm not going anywhere.
The opening of the season is about a month away. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Soniaville, Nova Scotia.
Fans will stop at nothing to draw a connection to Taylor Swift, and that invisible string leads right back to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Swift's NFL star boyfriend, Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs, wore a Bombers jersey during an episode of his New Heights podcast this week. Kelce and his brother Jason are longtime friends of Bombers quarterback Zach Collaros. The Bomber shoutout has caught the attention of fans and even the Premier. Well, now we are hearing from Collaros himself, who was asked about the star-studded show of support.
I was talking to Trav and Jay. I'm like, yo, we're going to play the West Final here. Yeah. If you can, during the week, it'll be cool for the organization. If you were like, hey, we're supporting the Bombers, or just wear it and, be like, hey, tune into the CFL. I don't think they read the text exactly correctly, so they wore it. They wore it when they wanted to wear it, but it's cool. I like the bobblehead in the back. That's the coolest part.
The Bombers face either the Lions or the Rough Riders in the CFL West Final on November 9th. So usually this is the point in the show where I bring you the dog walking forecast, but I thought we'd do something a little bit special tonight for Halloween. Let's have a look at this together. I have a slideshow of some of the images that you have sent me of your pets dressed up in Halloween costumes or with the Halloween decorations. Just have a look at some of these photos. They are so lovely, and these really made my day when I was putting this slideshow of photos together. And boy, oh boy, some of you have gotten really, really creative, and I hope something like this doesn't scare you or your kids as you're out trick-or-treating. Maybe you're back home already, but certainly a very nice sight to see. You can always send your dog photos to talkback@cbc.ca. Here's Ethan with another look at our forecast.
Well, Well, hey, I love seeing that it's not just the humans that are dressing up for Halloween and getting into the spirit, Riley. And I'll tell you what, Oliver may not be dressed up right now, but he is watching from watching the Halloweeners and trick-or-treaters coming to the door from the comfort of his couch. He does look pretty cozy there. I think I'll take a similar approach tonight. Thanks so much to Dwayne for sending in this great picture. And a reminder, you can always send us your pet pics to talkback@cbc.ca. And if you are taking the pooch out for a stroll tomorrow, again, we're looking at mostly cloudy skies through the day. Not much of a breeze, and I think it'll actually be pretty nice temperature-wise. These are just slightly above seasonal for this time of year. It's when we get to that 3 or 4 o'clock hour that I think we're going to start to see the sun poke out a little bit more in the Winnipeg area anyway. But for the rest of us through southern Manitoba heading into tonight, yeah, quite a bit of cloud cover, I think, still hanging around. We've seen a few showers in parts of southwestern Manitoba, including around Brandon. There could still be a few sprinkles as we head overnight tonight, but I think by and large a dry Halloween night is what we are expecting. Up into northern Manitoba, again, this is where we're seeing those temperatures dropping back into the mid-minus teens, feeling closer to -20 overnight in some locations. But you notice the divide here in temperatures between the far north and into kind of the northern Interlake region, especially as we head into the noon hour tomorrow. Flin Flon, the Pas, Grand Rapids jumping well into the single digits above freezing. But up in the north, the far north, again, along the Hudson Bay coast, this is where we could see a few flakes fly tomorrow. The best we'll do temperature-wise, probably into those kind of the -5, -6 range tomorrow. But a nice above-seasonal day for places a little bit further south. Again, cloud cover taking over much of southern Manitoba for tomorrow morning, but a lot of us already above the freezing mark. And then jumping back to similar temperatures to what we saw today, getting back into that kind of seasonal or just above seasonal range. Some clearing out west, I think, as we get into the noon hour tomorrow, especially into southwestern parts of the province. And then look how quickly that cloud cover clears out as we get into the 4 o'clock hour. Still hanging on a little bit into some eastern sections of the province, but definitely further south and west, we are looking at some clearing skies. Sneak peek at your 7-day forecast shows that we're actually on the increase temperature-wise as we head into the weekend, but a little bit of unsettled weather headed our way for Sunday. I'll have a full look at the 7-day forecast, Riley, coming up.
Thanks, Ethan. Well, there are lots of fun ways to celebrate Halloween, but what about solving a mystery on a sunken ghost ship turned escape room? Kevin Bacon has done just that in his front yard in Old St. Vital. Have a look.
It's a sunken ship, but it's really only the back of the ship. So it's almost like the whole thing is in the water and just the rear of the ship is sticking up out of the water. And it's kind of the part where the crew lives and sleeps. And it's locked up. And if you find the key, you can get inside.
That's so cool. So you've got this all staged also with skeletons around. They look like fallen crew and it's all lit. Why do you know how to do this in a way that looks like a set?
Honestly, like the skeletons that are posable, you kind of just play around with them until it looks right. And yeah, it's pretty easy to do, to be honest. But yeah, building the wooden ship was a lot of work, of course. Yeah, it took a month.
Where'd the idea come from?
Yeah, I've always liked Halloween. Yeah, always kind of my favorite time of the year, and never had a house before, so now I can do something in my yard. And unfortunately, last year I was working on Halloween, so I wasn't able to do anything. So yeah, tonight's the night.
How big is this physically, this half a ship that's sticking out? Like, can you give us a sense of how large it is?
Yeah, it's probably about 10 feet by 8 feet.
Okay.
Maybe 7.5 feet high. And once you get inside, it's really an 8 by 8 foot room.
And when can people actually, is it structurally sound enough that somebody could, like, are you expecting trick-or-treaters to be walking on it, or what are the rules?
You can definitely go inside. It's meant to go inside, but not on the roof.
Yeah.
So there's kind of ladders that are like, halfway up, and they're so rickety that I hope no one tries to climb it. And as far as I know, no one's climbed it.
So in terms of the puzzle and working to solve the puzzle, what's your expectation about who might find the key and how difficult you've made this that might be able to get inside the ship?
You do have to read some clues to really be able to solve it. So yeah, just looking around might not be enough to find the key. But I've been making it easier and easier because I can tell people were like getting stuck. So, you know, once they finished, I would go in and change the clue, add something to make it more obvious.
Okay. Have you tested this out then leading up to Halloween? Is that what you mean?
It's been going for weeks now.
Oh, okay,
So,
okay. I didn't realize when your start date was. Yeah, I knew you were open tonight as well, but you were starting it. So when people complete it, do they get a prize, or is the prize that you get to go inside?
There is a prize, actually. Once you get inside, there's another mystery to open up a trunk. And once you're inside that trunk, there's a little, spoiler alert, but there's a little chest. It's got coins in it. You can have a coin, and they're like kind of authentic looking little metal coins. They're pretty cool, really. And I think I've gone through about 100 of them.
Wow.
So that's how many people have made it through.
So Kevin says he plans to keep that open for a few more days yet at 14 Hull Avenue. More to come after the break. We're back after this.
Well, a really nice next couple of days here, especially in terms of our temperatures. We get some clearing finally come Saturday, I think, but it's short-lived. We get some rain rather on Sunday. A good chance of that, I think, is on the way for Sunday. Possible lingering showers for Monday before things clear out into Tuesday. That's when our temperatures will drop. But then a rebound in temperatures for the first week of November. So getting a bit of a flip-flop here and there, Riley.
All right, thank you so much, Ethan. Well, finally for us tonight, for more than 10 years, a Winnipeg man has carved huge pumpkins to honor his late mother and to fight cancer. The CBC's Sabina Ahmed met the man behind the Pumpkin Promise.
It's a Halloween tradition Chris O'Kell never misses. Every October, he showcases giant carved pumpkins outside his South Winnipeg home. O'Kell lost his mother to pancreatic cancer in 2010. Since then, he has raised funds through these pumpkins for Cancer Care Manitoba.
Growing up, we were a Halloween-loving family, and my mom absolutely loved the kids. Helping kids, you know, seeing the kids smile and doing whatever she could for the kids.
In the past 11 years, O'Kell says he's raised more than $69,000. Visitors leave cash or scan a QR code to pay online. O'Kell says the pumpkins are mainly grown in the village of Roland and range from 400 to 1,300 pounds. Carved and decorated by him, his family and friends.
So this is the pumpkin that I have this year.
Like Ryan Bollenbach.
It's been an incredible experience. I feel like I get a bit more involved every year, and I have a pumpkin on my driveway as well, so it gets a little bigger every year as well. So yeah, of course it's an amazing cause and something really awesome to be a part of.
I use the standard carving tools for big pumpkins. A drywall saw, a hammer, and a crowbar. There you go. That's the normal carving tools for 1,200-pound pumpkins.
He says he's just doing his part to fight cancer, something his mother would have wanted. Sabina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And all for a great cause. And I really didn't think about having to get creative to carve a pumpkin that's big. You can't just use a spoon or your hands to kind of scoop that out. Hey, if you're doing some later celebrating into the evening hours, be safe tonight. Dress up because it's going to be a little bit on the chilly side through the evening and the overnight hours. Thank you for watching. See you tomorrow.